A Haitian father from a small village outside Jacmel. A Japanese mother who walked away from her own family to marry him. Two daughters raised on cracked tennis courts in Long Island and Florida with no coaches, no academy money, and no safety net. And one of those daughters grew up to sign endorsement deals worth more in a single year than most professional athletes earn in an entire career. We are not talking about a tennis player. We are talking about a family fortune that crossed 3 continents to get built. A bloodline that turned racket sweat into a corporate empire, stretching from Tokyo boardrooms to North Carolina soccer franchises. While most of the world was busy debating whether Japan would ever embrace a blackface on its biggest stage, this family quietly stacked a fortune that puts them above almost every Japanese athlete in history. We are tracking the prize purses, the brand deals, the citizenship swap, and the side businesses to break down the single richest black family in Japan today. By the time we are done, you will understand why the Osakas are not just wealthy. They are an institution. Number 7, the Osaka Family, $45 million. Global tennis empire. To understand the money, you have to understand the migration. Leonard Francois was born in Haiti and moved to New York as a young man chasing education and opportunity. He ended up at New York University, and somewhere along the way, while sitting in a coffee shop in Hokkaido during a college trip, he met a Japanese woman named Tamaki Osaka. The relationship was forbidden. Tamaki's father in northern Japan refused to accept a black son-in-law, and the two of them were essentially cut off from her side of the family for over a decade. They lived together in Osaka, the city, which is actually how the daughters got their last name. Japanese law and family registry tradition pushed Tamaki to give the kids her surname rather than his. That single bureaucratic decision is the reason the world today knows the name Osaka and not the name Francois. It also became one of the most valuable brand decisions in modern sports, but no one in that little Osaka apartment in the late 90s had any clue. Naomi was born in October of 1997, the younger of 2 sisters. Mari, the older one, came first. The family moved to the United States when Naomi was 3 years old, settling in Long Island with Leonard's Haitian parents before eventually relocating to Florida to chase warmer weather and better tennis courts. And here is the part of the story most people skip past. Leonard had no tennis background. None. He watched the Williams sisters dominate the French Open on television, saw what Richard Williams had built with his daughters from Compton, and made a conscious decision that he would do the exact same thing with his 2 girls. He bought books. He watched videos. He coached them himself on public courts because he could not afford a real academy. The blueprint was Venus and Serena, and the laboratory was whatever municipal court would let them play for free. The early years in Florida were lean. The family lived with Leonard's parents at one point, packed into tight quarters, while every spare dollar went into tennis. Marie and Naomi trained side by side 6 days a week, sparring against each other, in what was essentially a private 2-person academy run by their father. There were no sponsor checks coming in. There was no agent on retainer. Tamaki worked long hours to keep the operation funded, while Leonard drove the girls from tournament to tournament in whatever used vehicle the family could keep running. Every black tennis parent in America looked at Richard Williams and thought it might be possible. Leonard Francois actually committed to it without a safety net, and the cost of that commitment showed up in missed bills, delayed rent, and a decade of financial pressure that nobody outside the household ever saw. By the time Naomi turned pro at 15 years old, in 2013, the family was already operating as a unit. Mari was the original prospect, the one everyone thought would break through first, and Naomi was the little sister grinding behind her. The roles flipped fast. Naomi started rising through the WTA rankings, and by 2018, she did the unthinkable. She walked onto Arthur Ashe Stadium at the US Open, faced Serena Williams in the final, the same Serena who had been the entire reason her family picked up a racket in the first place, and she beat her. Straight sets. The crowd booed. The match ended in chaos and tears. And Naomi Osaka, 20 years old, walked off with $2.6 million in prize money and a Grand Slam trophy that changed the family's financial future forever. Then came the Australian Open in January of 2019. Another Grand Slam, another $2.5 million paycheck, and a jump to world number one. Then another Australian Open in 2021. 4 Grand Slam titles before her 24th birthday. Total career prize money pushing past $21 million on the court alone. But here's the secret that the prize money board never tells you. The tennis was the smallest part of the empire. The real machine was just getting started. Forbes started publishing her endorsement income separately, and the numbers were staggering. In a single 12-month stretch, Naomi Osaka brought in roughly $58 million from off-court deals. Read that again. $58 million in 1 year, just from sponsorships, just from putting her face on products. That made her, at the time, the highest-paid female athlete in the entire history of sports. Higher than Serena, higher than Maria Sharapova in her prime. The girl whose father coached her on cracked Florida courts had become the most lucrative female athlete the world had ever seen. Look at the brand list and you start to understand why. Nike signed her to a contract reportedly worth over $10 million per year, the largest annual deal Nike had ever given a female tennis player. Yonex put her racket in their global campaigns. Then the Japanese corporate giants started lining up like dominoes. Nissan made her a global brand ambassador. Panasonic put her in their international advertising. Shiseido, the cosmetics empire, signed her as the face of their skincare line. Sony, Tag Heuer, MasterCard, Beats by Dre, Louis Vuitton, Levi's, Workday, GoDaddy, and a long list of others that kept extending year after year. Every major Japanese conglomerate wanted her face on their products, and they were willing to pay premium dollars to get it. Why did Japan back her so hard? Because she solved a problem the country had been wrestling with for years. Japan was aging. Japan was insular. Japan was watching its global cultural influence shrink, while Korean pop and Chinese tech dominated the headlines. And here came a young woman who held a Japanese passport, who spoke broken Japanese, in interviews with disarming humility, who bowed to the crowd, who carried herself with a quiet politeness the Japanese audiences immediately recognized, but who also carried unmistakable Black identity and global star power. She was the bridge. She was Japan's chance to project itself as modern, multicultural, and globally relevant without losing its sense of self. And the corporations paid accordingly. The family made one of the most calculated business moves in modern sports history in October of 2019. Naomi gave up her American citizenship to compete for Japan exclusively. Japanese law does not recognize dual citizenship past the age of 22, and she had to choose. She chose Japan. The American media debated it for weeks. Was it patriotism? Was it a tax move? Was it strategy? It was all of the above, but mostly, it was business. By becoming officially and only Japanese, she locked in her premium value to every Japanese sponsor on her roster. She was no longer an American with Japanese heritage. She was a Japanese athlete who happened to be Black. That distinction, in marketing terms, was worth tens of millions of dollars over the long arc of her career. But the family's relationship with Japan was never simple. In 2019, the noodle giant Nissan ran an animated commercial featuring Naomi as a character on their cup noodle ad campaign. The animation made her skin look noticeably lighter than her real complexion. The internet exploded. Critics accused Nissan of whitewashing her, of trying to make her look more Japanese and less Black to fit their commercial. Naomi spoke about it directly. She said the ad should have been done differently and that conversations needed to happen about how Black people were portrayed in Japanese media. Nissan pulled the ad and apologized. It was a small moment, but a culturally massive one, because it forced Japan to confront its own discomfort with the very Black identity it was profiting from. Then came the bigger reckoning. The 2020 Black Lives Matter movement swept across the world after the murder of George Floyd. Most athletes posted a black square on Instagram and moved on. Naomi flew to Minneapolis. She marched in the protests. She showed up to the 2020 US Open wearing 7 different masks, one for each round, each mask printed with the name of a Black American killed by police or racial violence. Trayvon Martin, Breonna Taylor, Elijah McClain, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Philando Castile, Tamir Rice. She won that tournament. Another Grand Slam, another $2.5 million. But, more importantly, she had transformed herself from a tennis player into a global political and cultural figure in a way that no Japanese athlete had ever attempted before. The 2021 French Open broke her in a different way. She announced before the tournament that she would not be doing post-match press conferences because of the toll they took on her mental health. The tournament fined her $15,000 after her first match. The other Grand Slams threatened to ban her, so she withdrew. Then she withdrew from Wimbledon. Then she opened up publicly about her years of depression and social anxiety, a conversation almost no athlete at her level had ever been willing to have. Sponsors, against every expectation, doubled down. Calm, the meditation app, signed her almost immediately. Body Armor put her front and center in a global mental health campaign. The very vulnerability that the old sports world thought would tank her brand turned out to make it stronger. She had become a generational voice, not just a generational athlete. Now, layer on top of all this what the family started building outside of tennis. In 2021, Naomi launched her own skincare line called Kinlo, specifically designed for melanin-rich skin, a category almost completely ignored by Asian beauty conglomerates despite massive demand across the diaspora. In 2022, she co-founded a sports management agency called Evolve, designed to represent and develop multicultural athletes who shared her background and faced the same structural barriers she had pushed through. She bought into the North Carolina courage of the National Women's Soccer League as a minority owner, parking equity in a women's sports league that has been appreciating in value year after year. She launched a media production company called Hanakuma in partnership with LeBron James and his Spring Hill Empire, focused on telling stories from underrepresented communities. Each of these is not just a side hustle. Each of these is an asset that builds long-term wealth that will keep generating long after the last service hit. And then there is the real estate side of the portfolio, which almost never gets discussed in the sports coverage. Naomi has quietly purchased property in the Beverly Hills and Los Angeles corridor, including a multi-million-dollar residence in one of the most exclusive pockets of Southern California. The family has also maintained a Japanese base for the portions of the year spent in Tokyo for appearances and corporate obligations. Each property sits in a market that has historically appreciated at compounding rates, meaning the hard asset column on the Osaka balance sheet has been quietly growing even during the years when Naomi was not winning tournaments. Most athletes blow their prize money on cars and chains. The Osaka family converted the cash flow into real estate, equity stakes, and business ownership. That discipline is the difference between a 10-year athletic career and a 50-year family fortune. And then there is the next generation. In July of 2023, Naomi gave birth to her first child, a daughter named Shay, with the rapper Corday. The arrival of a baby would have ended the careers of most female athletes in the prior generation. Naomi treated it as a pause. She returned to professional tennis in early 2024 and has been rebuilding her ranking ever since. Whether she ever wins another Grand Slam or not, the financial empire is already locked in. The endorsement contracts run for years. The equity in her businesses is hers to keep. The cultural cachet she built is essentially permanent. The family fortune today sits somewhere between $40 million and $60 million, clustered around $45 million. And those figures are almost certainly conservative, given how little private wealth ever shows up on public lists. At the peak of her career, she is still in her mid-20s. The Osakas are not finished. They are barely getting warmed up. Number 6. The Osaka Family, pioneering anime entrepreneurs. Drop south of the Osaka stratosphere, and you land on a different kind of black wealth in Japan, the kind being built with a pencil and a drawing tablet instead of a racket. Arthel and Darnell Essam are American-born brothers who founded Dart Studio in 2016, recognized across the industry as the first Black-owned anime production studio operating inside Japan. Arthel studied art in San Francisco. Darnell studied in New York. Both brothers took the leap across the Pacific in the late 2000s and spent close to a decade grinding as freelance animators on legendary projects like Bleach and Ghost in the Shell, before they had enough standing to launch their own shop. Their studio has contributed to Netflix projects including Yasuke, the show about the real black samurai who served the warlord Oda Nobunaga. The studio is small, around 10 employees, and the brothers themselves are likely sitting in the low, seven-figure zone at best. But the cultural asset they have built, the door they have pried open for every black animator who wants to work in Japan, is the kind of legacy capital that does not show up on any balance sheet. Number 5. Zion Suzuki and Family, $26 million. The football prodigy. The next generation of black Japanese wealth is already appreciating in European market value. Zion Suzuki was born in Newark, New Jersey, and raised in Japan. He is a 23-year-old goalkeeper who now plays for Parma in Italy's Serie A. His valuation sits around 24 million euros, which translates to roughly $26.5 million. That is not what he has in the bank. That is what the football transfer market is willing to pay for him as a tradable asset, and that number keeps climbing with every clean sheet he posts. His transfer from Sint-Truiden in Belgium to Parma cost the Italian club over 8 million euros. He is the 4th most valuable Japanese player in global football right now, and he represents a future where black Japanese athletes become appreciating commodities on European balance sheets. When his samurai blue career takes off at the international level, the Japanese endorsement floodgates will open behind him. The Suzuki family is, in effect, sitting on a long-dated option on the future of Japanese football marketing, and every year that ticks by without a major injury makes that option more valuable. Number 4. Crystal K and Family, R&B royalty. Before Naomi Osaka was winning Grand Slams, there was a young singer from Yokohama building the cultural infrastructure that made black Japanese celebrity commercially possible. Crystal K. Williams was born to an African-American bassist stationed at the Yokosuka Naval Base and a Korean-Japanese mother who sang professionally. She started charting on the Oricon before most kids her age had a driver's license, and she dominated Japanese R&B through the 2000s while still studying at Sophia University, one of Tokyo's most elite institutions. Her personal fortune has never been publicly itemized, but 2 decades of music royalties, major commercial deals with Japanese brands, and consistent touring income have compounded into real generational wealth. More importantly, every black Japanese artist who came after her walked through a door she was the first to open. Her name still carries weight, with Japanese advertisers who remember which artist normalized mixed-race stardom on mainstream Japanese television, and that weight translates into residual deals years after the chart peaks. Number 3. Rui Hachimura and Family, $15 million. An NBA corporate pillar, Rui Hachimura is the current face of Black Japanese athletic wealth inside the American professional sports machine. The Los Angeles Lakers forward is playing under a 3-year, $51 million contract, with career NBA earnings already past $71 million and climbing. But the real story is what he does off the court in Japan. His endorsements roster is not random consumer brands. He represents SoftBank, the tech and investment giant. He represents SMBC, one of the largest banks in the country. He represents NEC, the electronics conglomerate. His annual Japanese endorsement income is believed to sit above $10 million. The companies paying him are not just selling products through him, they are quietly building relationships that will position him for a post-basketball career in Japanese institutional finance. The Hachimura family is not just wealthy, it is wired into the backbone of the Japanese corporate economy. Number 2, the Whitaker family, soul food pioneers. Drop the scale all the way down to the entrepreneur level, and you find David and Tanya Whitaker. The American husband and wife team opened Soul Food House in Tokyo's Azabu, Juban district in September 2015, building what is widely recognized as the only legitimate sit-down soul food restaurant in the city. They serve fried chicken, waffles, collard greens, mac and cheese, the whole southern table. David had been a fixture in Tokyo's hip-hop scene for years before the pivot into food service. Their personal wealth likely sits in the low 6-figure range, maybe brushing low 7 figures in a strong year. They have survived more than a decade in the most brutal restaurant market on earth. In Tokyo, most restaurants die inside 3 years. The Whitakers are still standing, still serving, and still building community capital that outlasts the balance sheet. Number 1. Shaneka Willingham and family, boutique entrepreneur. The smallest financial footprint on this list belongs to a woman doing meaningful work at micro scale. Shaneka Willingham moved from America to Japan in October 2015 to teach military-dependent children at Yokota Air Base on the western edge of Tokyo. In January 2020, on what would have been her late mother's birthday, she launched Little Mavericks, an online children's clothing boutique specializing in apparel that celebrates Black identity and culture. Her net worth is almost certainly well under $1 million, and the business operates more as a mission-driven side hustle than a growth startup. But her position inside the American military community in Japan, her steady online following, and her consistent cultural message make her a meaningful figure in the Black expat ecosystem. The Willingham model is small, but it is the kind of small that plants the seed for the next Naomi Osaka or the next Rui Hachimura to grow up seeing themselves celebrated on a onesie before they ever pick up a racket or a basketball. And there it is. 7 Black families building wealth inside one of the most insular economies on the planet, from a soul food restaurant in Azabu Juban to a $45 million global empire, anchored by one young woman from Osaka. The Osaka family sits at the summit, not because of luck or inheritance, but because one Haitian father and one Japanese mother refused to let borders, bloodlines, or broken family ties decide what their daughters could become. If this story changed how you see global Black wealth and the strange, fascinating ways it gets built across borders, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment telling me which family story surprised you most. And for more deep dives into the Black families, quietly building empires in places nobody is looking, stay locked in. Catch you in the next one.